it's about like your brain filtering out things that don't confirm your, your existing schema. And that's what's so fascinating to me is they literally filter out. They won't see it. Like our brains literally make us not see it. It's not that we're ignoring it. No. We don't even see it. Like you say, so that is really difficult for changing people like that. Because like if you say, can I have a meeting about our new workplace something or other? They'll be like, no. They might even respond to your email about meetings. They're like, I'm not discussing. That's not a priority for me. If you said, can I talk to you about our sales figures? Then they'll be like, yeah, come and meet me. But if it's not, like if you're not aligned with their schema and priorities, you won't even get on their radar.
Hello and welcome to the Joyosity Podcast, where we are diving into the business of joy and helping you build positive culture with all of those complex people that you work with. I'm Jen Whitmer, keynote speaker, author, and resident joy bringer. And this series is called The Courage to Do It Differently. Joy makes work work. Each of these conversations were originally part of the research for my book, Joyosity, How to Develop Intense Happiness in Work and Life. Actually, it's how to cultivate intense happiness in work and life, even if things are what they are. And as I was interviewing these amazing, thoughtful, wise, gutsy people about work and leadership and identity and business and change, and what it really takes to build something meaningful while staying human. And in this series so far, we've talked about permission and culture and courageous leadership in practice. And today we're going to widen the lens. I can't wait for you to experience this, because when you realize something isn't working, the next question sometimes we say, okay, how do we actually get people to change? And also when you start doing that change process, you feel like, why is this so weirdly hard? Even when the better option is right in front of us, like practically wearing a name tag and saying, pick me. That is why Dr. Jacqueline Kerr is in this series. Jack is a behavior change scientist, a behavior change health scientist. Let's get all of her PhD specialties in there. She is a speaker and her own burnout survivor. And she has a comprehensive burnout prevention plan and impactful behavior change strategies for us. We met years ago when we did our first TEDx talks together. And you'll also recognize her from the final pages of Joyosity. She brings an incredibly wise, researched, grounded perspective to change how systems and human behavior happen, and the very real gap between what people say they want to do and what they're actually ready to do. So if you ever wanted to roll out a new idea and discovered that humans are not spreadsheets, this one's for you. So we talk about change fatigue, old schemas, pioneers, and the conditions that help people try something new without feeling like their nervous system is on fire. So here's my conversation with Dr. Jacqueline Kerr.
It's like it's creating the enabling conditions for change, right? And so those enabling conditions could be your own resilience. It could be your support from friends. It could be things in the environment that either make it easier to choose or just remind you. Often the things in the environments are the prompts, the cues to help you. Sometimes they're defaults, so you take away the choice, like you take away the choice of leaving the lights on in a hotel when you have the key card that you pull out, right?
Oh yeah.
Right. It's the default. If your default setting on your washing machine is cold, then you've got cold. You don't even have to think about it. So defaults make habits really much easier because you don't even have to think about it. And that's basically a habit is when you don't have to think. So that's essentially what we want, is that it's easier to choose and do the thing you want to do because everything around you supports it.
because I think one of the questions that I get a lot from clients in this space is, how do I know that they're ready for it? Because I'm always often encouraging the individual, not the group, but the individual is like, you're never going to really feel ready. There'll always be an element of fear or discomfort whenever you are changing. That is part of how change works in your physical body. You're literally creating new brain cells. And sometimes that is discomfort, not the actual brain cell growing, but so what are some signals or things to do to at the very beginning to help create change with other people? Like you were talking about co-creation, but what are some of those? How do I know that it's the right time?
So basically, this is the Bacana two-loop model of change. Have you come across this?
Only
Okay, yeah.
like, this looks familiar, like you have posted something similar on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So essentially, if you think about it here, so they're not ready for change. And they're not going to be ready for change. So like when you said, how do you know that they're ready for change? Until the other system, the other way of working becomes so common and obvious and beneficial that they're like, it's a no-brainer to change over. So basically, if you think about the people holding the status quo, is they're terrified of the risk of change. Change has to look like a no-brainer for them to step over and say, yeah, let's change how we work, right? So that takes a lot, right? To say, well, that with this new way of working is so well established. And the question is like, how many barriers did they put in the way in the meantime, so you couldn't get it to that state? So what you have to do is really start small. And again, this starts with these pioneers. So your smush leaders can basically become pioneers, where within their change how they work. And together they decide, we're going to do it this way, and we're going to stay within the boundaries of what we're kind of like allowed to do by the current culture or rules or whatever. But we're going to, start to sugar those boundaries, push them out. We're going to find different ways of doing it that haven't been like banned because no one thought of them. So that like you're using that pioneer mentality to get away with it, right? Because you're doing something that hasn't been said, not on the list, right? And so that's what you start to do. And that the importance of that, the empowering process of actually starting to make differences and think about things or do things differently. So again, that can be, okay, well, we, within our team meeting, we're not going to respond to things outside of certain hours, or, we're not going to spend all days in meetings. We're only going to have meetings between these times. Now then, like boundaries, you butt up against something else, but then that's the manager's job, can sort of say, well, team B is not doing this. I'm going to talk to team B's manager and say, by the way, our team is trying something right now where we don't have meetings. We only have meetings during these times of days. Could you respect that and have your meetings with us at a different time? Or do you want to join us? Like you could also do the same process. So essentially you're trying to, because here's what we're loving about it. And that's what you're saying is, here's what he goes, so Smush Manager A is talking to Smush Manager B and saying, oh my God, you'll never believe it. You know that Jenny that I've been having problems with? Now we don't have meetings all day. Oh my God, she's so productive. She's doing this, she's doing that. So you're selling those benefits. And then team A and B come together and they start to, the A and B managers are going, well, I tried it and it didn't work for so-and-so. And it's like, well, didn't it work for so-and-so? Let's talk about that. Let's work out, like, what are the exceptions when this doesn't work? And that's what these communities of practice are, is basically, that's what you're doing. You're practicing the limit of this thing, because the biggest and like the most important thing about change is there is not one size fits all, right? So you are always going to have to adapt things for new circumstances because time changes. Like, it's such an important to be an adaptable process. But there are still some core things that one would want to keep. So it's so important that if something doesn't work, you don't throw the magic ingredient, like the baby out with the bathwater, because some of the magic ingredients are about, you know, being a safe space to grow, you know, being a supportive space to grow of each other, having you know, the purpose, like we want to grow for a reason, we want to do this better, we're not happy with what we're doing, right? And it's seldom that like systems are so broken that you have to change, like they just kind of, and again, remember we've talked about this, about you're just the fish in the water, and suddenly you wake up and you go, God, I can't see the dang, you know, outside of the tank anymore. So it's not like it just comes crashing down, you know, that you can like go, oh, we have to do something. It's this like slow degeneration, and again, it's like the quiet quitting and all these things. It's because it just wears you down. So, you know, this process of then slowly building up these positive situations and scenarios, and you're really learning from them, because like you've got to learn, by the way, this doesn't work with teams of this nature, that, but then you're still having the conversation, which is like our teams really benefited in productivity and engagement. You know, like I can see from the data, if they have data or whatever, that your team is not yet. I really, as a co-manager, as another Smush manager like you, I really want to work out what we learn that can be applied to help you too, right? So it's this real, you know, trying to help each other, because essentially, if you all become more productive and engaged, then everyone benefits.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so then that's where the transition starts to happen, as that grows, it spreads, and you collect more of these just little pilots, just little things, but really like documenting those, because you've got to sort of be able to say, well, what it is, how to do it, you know, those types of things, so you can really demonstrate it. And then usually what happens is the issue is with the stabilizers, we're like totally like pissed at them, and you know, telling them they're old and they're stupid and they're all these things, but actually they're just afraid. And the reason they want to keep hold of the old system is because it worked. It worked for so long. It worked really well. Now, maybe you can say, well, it worked for some people, but yeah, that's true. And those people are at the top with power. There's definitely that problem. But if we're just basically saying, you know, your whole system is wrong, they're never gonna like come over, because we're dismissing their success. So instead of that, that's where you have to go through this phase of saying, what are the strengths in the old system that we can incorporate into the new? So like saying to somebody, you know, we're doing these new things, we've had this success, you know, what are successes you've had in the past that you think we should incorporate into this new way of working together? Because again, if you don't do that, they won't come over. So, and that's like the idea of the compost, is the strengths of the old system do become some of the compost for the new, you know. So for me, it's like there has to be quite a lot of change occurs in enough of a meaningful way that people can see, one, it's working, but it's not so different that it's threatening. And then you bring the leaders over. So if I can sort of put this in the context of community level change. So what we would do is create programs in communities, and community leaders would then bring people together to change their behaviors, to do more, say, you know, at the moment, I just call it like a net zero behavior, where you're, you know, reducing your emissions because of like the transportation choices you're making. So you bring people together to do that. And then you invite a policymaker to come with you. And this is the same, like, say, EV charging stations right now, you know, there's not enough infrastructure for that. So for example, companies like IKEA had this big target of all the EV stations all the EV vehicles they wanted to use, but they haven't met it. So met that target. And so what they've done is like created a video to say, we haven't given up on our target. And I'm sitting there like, well, you know, if there were community members who were delivering, you know, sustainability services in your neighborhoods, and they were doing something that helped the constituents of those communities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they basically invite a policymaker to ride along with them. We would invite policymakers to come on walks with our groups and say, look, we want you to walk with us because we're walking. And then you're basically giving them this like PR opportunity to be like, oh, look, so-and-so is associated with this wonderful program. Like they get all the benefit of that experience. But they're out there with you and they're walking in the environment and you're saying, yeah, it's so great. You know, we talked to some people in your department and we got this crosswalk fixed, but hey, we'd still like some more, but you know, we really appreciate of this. We're using it. It was a really good investment that your department made in us in this, you know, and you're just bringing them into positive situations where they are getting some credit for what they're doing. They're being associated with the positive change. Mm-hmm. And then basically you start to then say, okay, but we need this for it to go better. And because you're serving like their constituents in the policy kind of place, and you were a voter too, they really care about what you get. And so everyone talks about, you know, go to council meetings and send letters and protest and petition. I mean, it just doesn't work because they don't make their decisions there. They do things based on people and them getting a positive like bump from being part of the people and with the people and for the people, right? So I think in that sort of management situation or the systems change situation in corporations, it's the same. Like you start to change something, but then you've got to start to give some credit to the leaders, because if you want them to continue to invest in it and support it and come over to it, they have to be sort of seen as, you know, part of something that's successful. And that's how change then happens. That's how, you know, you get the infrastructure or whatever it is, the investment, the infrastructure that then supports larger change.
I'm going to kind of repeat a little bit of what I'm understanding to make sure I get this right. That what works best is when you're like, I'm going to try, it's a practice. We're going to experiment. We're going to see how this works. I get another network, you know, like, okay, I'm going to grab you in. We're doing this really well. And you either, one, why is this team great? The leaders are like, let's figure that out. Or you go to them and say, hey, here's what we're doing. We think this could be broader because here's the positive experiences that are happening. Not so much if we don't do this, the negative, although that works sometimes in saying like, if we just keep doing what we're doing, it's going to decline. But what you're saying, when you want to make real change, it's actually demonstrating that the positive, like here's the positives that we're experiencing, the benefits, the outcomes that we wanted to see. Yes. Here's how we're getting there. That is the way to get them through like, change is scary, but you're showing me that if I change, it's actually better. Not if I change, if I don't change, it's going to be bad.
Yeah. And also like you say, is I think we should scale. No, let them come to that conclusion. Let them go, oh my God, I want this everywhere, right? Because it's like, wow, why wouldn't you? But like I feel like that's the problem sometimes. We're like, and this should be at scale. And then you say the word scale and everyone's like, boom,
right.
I'm overwhelmed. You're just saying, isn't this great? Isn't it great? And they're going, should have this everywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
So allowing them to say, oh, this could work other places.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
I wonder if this could work, you know, and even if they're saying, I don't think this could work in Bob's division, then you start to have a conversation. That's interesting. Why is that? And then you've got them thinking about change. Even though they're like, this wouldn't work, that's negative, you've got them saying, why is that? And so then you just are having a different conversation about it. But I think Another framework that's really helpful in this space, because asking whether people are ready for change is a really important thing, right? So assuming most people are ready for change, and then you show them the positive. But thinking about it from this way, so there's pre-contemplators, contemplators, preparers, people who are in action, and then people who are then in relapse. So the people who are ready for change are your contemplators. They are, well, they're not really ready for change. They've embraced the idea that they want to change, but they get such a good feeling about, I'm the type of person who wants to lose weight. It doesn't mean they do anything. That's why all these companies, they pledge, I've got a net zero pledge, we're going to do it. And they get so much positive PR. And then doing nothing isn't penalized.
Well, that's the difference between having a plan and acting on the plan. Those are two different steps.
Right, but they don't even have a plan. They have an intention. So then the preparer stage is when you have a plan. The preparers have got a plan. So if you're helping someone in the preparer stage, that's exactly what you have to give them. A toolkit, a step-by-step plan, and somebody just like them who's 2 steps ahead that they can follow, and they do it. So that's the preparation stage. And then you get into like the action stage where people are actually doing things. And the problem is then we fail and we don't have progress. So that's why we go into relapse. But in that action stage, it's all about small steps, really reinforcing progress and preparing for failure, right? Because if you prepare for failure, then you don't see it as failure. You're like, oh, it's just an adaptation we have to make. And just to go back to the pre-contemplators, because they're possibly the worst group and potentially the biggest group, right? They are people who, like you say, we could have weight loss ads in front of us. Like we could have gone through a magazine and there could be 20 weight loss ads and we will have not seen one of them because we are not thinking about weight loss. We don't believe we're a person who needs weight loss. So
would you say that they are
filters out that information?
Are you saying that they, as another way to say that they are unaware that there is a problem?
The problem, it's not that no, it's even like I'm not a problem. I'm not a person who has that problem.
Okay, that's okay. Right? That makes sense.
Because it's about like your brain filtering out things that don't confirm your your existing schema. And that's what's so fascinating to me is they literally filter out. They won't see it. Like our brains literally make us not see it. It's not that we're ignoring it. No. We don't even see it. Like you say, tell me about the ads that are in that. They'll name everything else and they won't name that one. Literally didn't enter your brain. So that is really difficult for changing people like that. Because like if you say, can I have a meeting about our new workplace something or other? They'll be like, no. They won't even respond to your email about meetings. They're like, I'm not discussing. That's not a priority for me. If you said, can I talk to you about our sales figures? Then they'll be like, yeah, come and meet me. But if it's not, like if you're not aligned with their schema and priorities, you won't even get on their radar. So what you have to do for people in that stage is what we call stealth interventions. You talk in their language.
I love that.
You meet their priorities, but in meeting their priorities, you're getting your way. Like, so, like one of the examples kind of, it's like, if someone's really focused on cost, for example, then you make things cheap and they do it anyway. They don't have to believe in climate change, but if solar is cheap and it saves them money, they're going to do it. And guess what happens afterwards? Oh, then they start to go, oh, this is really great.
Yeah, there's more benefits.
It's great. It's literally like they want sales to go up. And so you say, I've got a way that sales go up. And you say, great. And you just go away and you do your thing. And then you bring them back the data and say, sales went up. And then they're like, oh, how did you do that? Well, funny enough, it was by changing the hours that we were in meetings, right? So you're never trying to convince them
Right.
Meeting hours
Yeah,
are related to
internally you're
sales.
doing that. And
Right.
yeah, I
It's
see what
like
you're saying.
you're basically, bringing them data that which is their schema and how the world works. And then you're saying, oh, do you want more of this? Do you want all the teams to right? And then
Yeah.
you're saying, okay, well, it actually is about these hours that we're in meetings or whatever,
Yeah.
and so yeah, that's why it's like stealth. Because it has to be, it's not that it's like it's not unethical because you're not fooling them.
No.
Sausage is made right now.
Yeah. Oh, that's so helpful. This is just, it's really good. It's confirming some things. It's helping me think about some things differently. And I think really
No,
help.
I always feel like that when I talk to people. They understand this. They know this like intuitively. It's just like building the science behind what you do already.
Yeah.
Like
One of the things
this.
I'm coming back to a lot in the last like 6 months is that people don't always, I mean, they do it sometimes, but they don't always need new information. They need reminders. You do know this. You've experienced this. Like you said, you know this intuitively.
Right.
And like some people need the proof in the science, and I want the proof in the science that I'm not out there. But like sometimes it's like you need the reminder that this was a good thing for you. So then you move from the contemplation to the preparer to the actor. So like get there, go do the thing.
Yeah. So one of the things is between the pre-contemplator itself, think of them as they're off the radar, they're not on the what's the place we're on? They're not on the
Oh, I think off the radar makes sense.
Yeah, they're off the radar. You got to meet them over there. Like, and they're not going to pay attention to what you're doing. You can't talk about it because it doesn't match with their view of the world. So you have to just, bring that together. The contemplators, I think, are some of the harder ones too, because basically you have to, at that stage, they're weighing up the pros and cons of, because the preparers want to definitely act, so they're like, how do I do it? That's their question. So you make action plans for them, right? That's toolkits, action plans, step by step. The pre-contemplators are stuck for years. You could be stuck forever here, weighing up the pros and cons. So you have to put your finger on the scales, because essentially, and they're not necessarily going to, again, because of how our brains work, if you talk to them about future benefits, they weigh current costs more highly against any future benefit, right? We are motivated to go, what is it like right now? So if you say, if you change, this is what you'll experience. They can't imagine that. Like but it's also, how uncomfortable am I going to be to experience that positive thing? What's the pain I have to go through? And so that's what they're focused on. So you have to really double down on the problems they're having right now, the costs of inaction, which is what you said yourself a few minutes ago. You used those words. That's what we have to, you don't talk about costs of inaction to the pre-contemplators because they don't give a shit. Right. But the contemplators are like, I've got to get out of this state because it's so awful. I can't feel like this anymore. I just can't. Right. So you're reminding them of the like how painful it is to be where they're at. You can't convince them that the other side is better necessarily, because they are going to focus on how they feel now, but you're basically helping them remember how bad they feel now. So then things like the reminders, that really comes into like the habit formation stuff, which is things are not top of mind. Like until a habit is when your behaviors become automatic. Until that point happens, you need constant reminders, cues from the environment, cues from other people, cues from how your body feels, like cues from anywhere, right? From all these enabling conditions that remind you to do the thing you need to do. So you get those rewards, right? Of doing the thing. So reminders are really important. And that's why information is not helpful, because information might make you like move you within the contemplation group. Like you said, knowledge sometimes is helpful. Oh, well, you didn't know that about broccoli and cauliflower and things.
Yeah.
Right? You were already in this point of
right. Are we as humans, what I'm thinking this is what you're saying. I want to have specific meeting times. I want to set some boundaries that we only have meetings on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from this time to this time. That's what I want. Somebody else wants to make sure that we're not emailing after hours. I am in a different stage in the meeting setup. I might be in the action stage in the meeting setup, but in the email after hours, I'm in pre-contemplation. I don't see that as a problem. Can we be in different places on different topics in ourselves? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I try to think about it as like your priorities, right? These
yeah,
are
that's what I'm just checking.
What
yeah.
are your priorities, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So but your prioritizing based on your, well,
I would prioritize it based on your purpose.
The pros and cons, because we're not friggin' rational.
No,
right?
We're not.
It's based on how we feel.
Yeah, totally.
And, so So for sure. I mean, we have different priorities, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No, that's helpful.
That can be sort of so life related. It can be all sorts of things, right?
Yeah, we joke all the time in our house. I don't really care if there are, like if people come over to our house and there's a folded basket of laundry in the living room, that is not a priority for me. I don't even care. Yeah. I don't really see it. It's fine. Yeah. It drives my husband crazy.
Right.
If you walk in the front door and there is dirt on the floor, I'm going to lose my ever loving mind. There are humans who live here. We're not a bunch of like hooligans who don't know how to clean up after ourselves, or the blankets strewn everywhere. But a folded basket of laundry doesn't bother me because we see things a little bit differently. So yeah.
Yeah. So and so I think that's really important, because again, you don't diss your husband because he wants the laundry basket away, right? That's the difference, is like we're so like not valuing other people's priorities, right?
Right.
And that's why I think, again, when we start to do like teamwork that is based on understanding that, like I loved my colleague in Denmark. He said that they would do this energy work in their teams because it was like, what brings you energy? Mm-hmm. He loves making decisions. He's a total decision maker. Other people on his team hate making decisions. They will procrastinate forever. So guess what? When there's a decision going to be made, they're going to take that problem to Jasper and he's going to go do it this way. And it's done, right? Yeah. And it's like, and whereas he's not impacted by decision making, someone else is drained by it, right? So it's all about, okay, what are the things either that don't bother you so you can do them easily, or actually you love doing and so you're going to do them really, really well. And we can't we can't like, we're all going to have different things that we prioritize that bring us joy, and it's about the yes and to that, it's great that you do that. It's that we complement each other.
You have to know in the recipe what you are. Are you a chocolate chip, or you, like, everybody can't be butter as much as we love butter, like that doesn't make the goodness that when we work together, but you do have to know what you are, and you have to help other people figure that out as the leader or whatever. But that idea that you have to understand and then appreciate that it's not like just because it's yours, it's better. Everybody's creations matter. Isn't she like brilliant? I love the graphic. It's so helpful to see the change. And I knew she was so important to be a part of how we have courage to do it differently, because she reminds us that work isn't built on forcing people. It's built on understanding how change really happens and inviting them in. So we're not doing urgency theater here. We're not yelling innovation over a slide deck with pretty pictures. We work with real people, with experiments in trust and enough safety so people are working in what I call the magic zone. It's not too scary, but it's not the same. And the question I want you to ask yourself this week is, am I making change possible, or am I just telling people to do it? Because that's a very different game. Next up, is part 1 of my conversation with Helen Morrison of Frownies. And the last 2 episodes in this series are fascinating because Helen is building a space full of opinion and legacy and identity with beauty standards, and we talk about power, which means naturally it gets juicy fast. And if this series is stirring something up in you, I am building something just for you. I really want to help you as experienced leaders reduce the hidden drag and the toil that you experience, escape reactive patterns and communicate more effectively, and rebalance your time so you are working and leading inside the joy ratio. And I want to help you do that without overfunctioning, constant overwhelm, or sacrificing your performance and your well-being, because you don't have to carry it all alone. If that is interesting to you, you can join the waitlist at jenwhitmer.com/waitlist. And while you're there, you can grab a copy of Joyosity at jenwhitmer.com/books and wherever books are sold. In this next episode with Helen, you're going to want to listen because we listen to her story, the evolution of a brand, and what it means to step into a role you didn't exactly see coming. But looking back, it was the golden thread all along. And if you know others who want to join us, share in our experiment, please share this episode with them. When you share it with people, your individual recommendation means the world. But also when you rate and subscribe to the podcast, it brings all of our collective courage together to do it differently, to put joy in the center, because joy makes work work.